Hello, how's everyone doing? Nice to meet you, Goku. I've seen you in the Discord. All right, welcome to Ask An Arbinaut, episode 1 with OX Recruiter. I'll be bringing him in a sec. His name is Bellman. He's one of the technical recruiters at Arbitrum. And basically with the Ask An Arbinaut series, what we're doing is bringing on different people from the Arbitrum team to kind of talk about their expertise and also the Arbitrum ecosystem as well. So without further ado, let's bring in Bellman. Boom.
Up, everybody.
What's up? Hello, Bellman.
Trying to get rehydrated. I'm starting to pick up the pattern that everyone got sick over the Thanksgiving holiday. So trying to get rehydrated here.
Not me, because I'm in Canada.
Yeah.
Real Thanksgiving was last month.
Wait, there's a Thanksgiving up in Canada?
There's a Canadian Thanksgiving as they call it. You have to preface it with the country though, so that's how you know it's fake. No offense, but all right, welcome. I guess welcome to both of us because it's the first episode, the pilot episode, if you will.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, who are you?
Oh yeah, so I didn't introduce myself. My name's Eli. One of two community managers at Arbitrum. But a lot of Hunter, who's been here for a long time, and I joined at the beginning of November.
It's awesome.
That's who I am.
Yeah, my name is Bellman. I'm the technical recruiter here at Off Chain Labs. Some of you may know me as Xerox Recruiter on Twitter. And yeah, I started here back in July. So prior to that, I was over at Binance US, helping grow out their data analytics team, the BD team, research team. Those two are kind of the same thing, like all on the same like partnerships BD side of things. But yeah, and then customer support too. So it's been a very interesting year. I'd say at least. I mean, from the crypto market space, but also from just a jobs point of view, like a career advancement point of view too. So it's been exciting, nonetheless.
Yeah, crypto is never boring. That's one thing. If you have friends or family who aren't in crypto, they're always just like, "Oh my God, are you okay? Like, did you see what happened?" and all those kind of things. But bear market, bull market, it doesn't really matter. In Web3, people are always building and doing cool stuff. So there's always something interesting to break through the noise of like the headlines. So that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I think at this point, with us being in almost in December, I think December is tomorrow, if I'm correct.
2 days.
At this point,
it's not a leap year yet.
I mean, honestly, at this point, like I'm just kind of literally waking up, getting after it, and it's just whatever happens, that happens. But yeah, the days have become so blurry, to say the least.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. So what brought you to Arbitrum, Bellman? I don't actually know the answer to that. So,
so I was over at Binance US, and I wanted to get into the exchange side initially, because it was very, very like, this is a good barrier of entry into the space. Like, and even prior to that, like I worked as a recruitment coordinator, but more on like the international side. So like I was working with teams in India, Europe, South America, Africa as well, like all throughout Africa, South of Africa too. And that's kind of where I got like my international, like, kind of taste of like recruitment and like how processes work and how different candidates are, how just like the entire world is different than how like the US recruits, and even timelines of hires. So that really started to kind of interest me, right? But even back in college, or as some people call it, uni, we started to kind of focus on like workforce development and like workforce planning, and my degree was in political science. So I took up an internship with the state of Pennsylvania to focus on how to like build out their internship and apprenticeship programs, but from like a state level, right? So we would go like to like different high schools, different universities, try to see like what programs they currently had, and then compare that to different states. But at the core of it, my like niche focus was more of like technology and just really like it was just tech overall, right? So how do we drive more students to maybe go to like an extracurricular curricular coding class, but also how do we kind of create like an apprenticeship internship program with a local business there too, right? So that was kind of like the spark where I was like, huh, like this is really interesting. From the scope of like just technology, just in general, right? But also from the scope of like, okay, these kids are like in high school, they're about to leave for college. Some of them realistically will not go to college. So how can we kind of give opportunities to individuals to kind of like grow themselves professionally. And like I said, like that was kind of like the first barrier of entry point where I was like, huh, this is like really interesting. Like there's something here. So yeah, that kind of shifted whenever I graduated. I got into a recruitment agency, and literally like 12 13 hours going on weekends was kind of like that hustle mentality straight out of college, like and working on weekends was like one of my biggest motivators, to be honest, because it kind of just painted that picture of like you can work a little bit extra harder, and we all have those same hours in the day, as I say, but you can work a little bit extra harder and kind of get those hours back essentially. So going in on weekends was kind of like my little cheat sheet. And at that time I started working with data scientists and like data engineers within like small AWS startups in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. So on their free time, they were obviously focused more on the blockchain space, and like just like their interest kind of like laying there. And previously to that, I was already exposed to like Ethereum and Bitcoin, and even like I mean just any other cryptocurrency like that was out at the time.
Blue chips.
And yeah, it was it to be frank and to be fair, I found my first Coinbase transaction. It was December of 2017. So I was like, okay, I was not a pioneer, but I feel like I was somewhat
No, they're saying anyone who like started in 2018 to 2020 can by the end of this cycle basically consider themselves a soft veteran, because of what they've had to go through in this last cycle. You really get put through the ringer. So if you come out on the other side and you're still involved in the space, I think after one long cycle, you earned it. So
yeah. I think at that time I was in college. Like it was definitely more of like a speculation type of like investment, right? That's how we all looked at it. We didn't really look past like, okay, this is just an investment. Like, what is it doing? And that's kind of really where it did take off for me, was like just the learning curve of everything. And yeah, in like 2019, I started at that recruitment agency, like I said. But yeah, those data scientists and like data engineers kind of did ramp me up on like what's kind of going on within the Ethereum world specifically. So unfortunately, obviously COVID happened, and ended up getting laid off from that agency. And from literally like February up until December, I did nothing. And at that point it was 2020, so we had a little bit of a DeFi summer. So yeah, it was like pretty much getting ramped up. Like
that was a fun summer.
It was. And yeah, so I got ramped up, like technologically speaking. Like, okay, well, what is a smart contract? What is a validator? What is a consensus mechanism? Like just trying to like get myself to like an understanding of like feeling a bit more comfortable to talk about it, because at the time I did not like.
I honestly think like when you first get into the space, it's really hard if you're trying to do more than just let's say throw an investment at Bitcoin or something and walk away. You really have to kind of immerse yourself, and whether you're working in the space or participating, it's still kind of like at the very least a part-time thing you have to commit your time to. And yeah, I think for me, like I joined in early 2018 is when I started really paying attention and getting involved. And yeah, I didn't, probably around DeFi summer 2020 was when I really got deep into the education side of it, and like, needed to self-educate and learn about every concept to be able to like understand the space further, because you kind of hit roadblocks if you don't know like what certain terms mean and fundamentals, and then, you know, you can't really understand what a project is. Like you can't understand what like an Oracle is or a layer 2 or this and that. So you have to like, each project kind of requires this little mini course you got to teach yourself. So
Yeah, and I always tell people, and they also tell me this too, like on interviews, you know, the folks that aren't working in the space, like they'll have their traditional, as they call it, like the 9 to 5, right? And from after that 9 to 5, like they'll literally immerse themselves nonstop into like just learning about anything blockchain related. And there's two ways of doing it. From like what I've noticed, you can literally go in and just study and like be a part of Discords, crypto Twitter, like there's that end of things. But then there's also like the builders, like the obviously the folks who want to come in and actually be hands on. That's obviously more of like the software engineers and those types of backgrounds. But yeah, typically it is folks almost treating this like a night class after they like after they're done work, they go into this like study mode of
yeah,
crypto, what is blockchain, like how do those two work together.
I mean, a lot of people during COVID, that's probably what they did, was just like do full time, even just, you know, in the community. I think that's where a lot of people really pick up the pace, is when they start joining the actual, because you realize that that actually exists. There's these altcoins and projects that also have a whole like ecosystem to them, where people are, it's not just a public forum, it's like a public chat and the teams involved. And it's a really, you know, it's a really clear understanding of like what Web3 looks like in that sense, from even a social side, not just
Yeah,
economics.
yeah. I joined a few DAOs back in 20, like late 2020, early 2021. And it just kind of like painted that picture for me, like, okay, maybe there's something here from like a corporate structure business standpoint, where obviously organizations can maybe be created from a DAO, right? Like how does that actually look like? And eventually, I think like mid 2021, I want to say maybe like a springtime, there was an organization, I forgot the actual name of it, but um they started to create DAO up in Wyoming, and that obviously became like a blueprint for these different businesses and like entities to kind of form. And that opens up obviously an entirely different job category, like
Yeah,
how are these individuals employed? What's the tax look like? What's the regulation look like? Is there even any set of hours that they have to work? And it almost, like, to me, what always made like a lot of sense was the Uber and Lyft model, the rideshare model, where or even just anything like this gig working economy wise, where someone could create an entity, they could 1099 themselves and work whatever hours they want using the resources that they
like
have.
autonomous and frictionless both combined, kind of. Yeah.
Exactly. So that was one thing where, that I noticed last year, that kind of started taking off. And even like even kind of like applying it to like what I was looking for from like a job standpoint. It was just like I want to have this freedom of you know working from home, being able to kind of have like my own set schedule. Like I mean, typically, obviously, hours are 9 to 5. I typically hold interviews like about 9, 6, 7 o'clock, just depends, and even sometimes a bit earlier depending on the candidate's like international. But I don't get a chance to do that in like a standard job. Like when
When,
someone goes in the office, they have an entire commute, or
yeah.
they have to leave by a certain time to make it home, right? So having that flexibility of like we're working from my house was definitely one of the biggest driving factors, because I think I've increased my production tenfold just because of
Yeah,
that.
no, like the remote work really works for a lot of people. And if it doesn't, you know, there are ways to like learn how to kind of lean into it slowly and then find those habits that work. Because obviously, some people like, you know, it's nice to be able to leave your house, separate work from that. But you know, if you do something long enough, you train it. So it's like a muscle. So I definitely found remote work was a little bit, you know, you're kind of like, you feel a little bit like you can look at other things and you get distracted easily. But once you dial in and you see like the productivity potential of it, it's quite, you know, different.
Yeah, and everyone's different, obviously. Like I also am a very big like social person. I love to go up, to New York, grab a WeWork, and or just like meet up with folks. Like that's something that I like to do periodically, right? But
And WeWork is like one of those shared hub spaces, right?
yep,
We have something similar here. I forget what it's called, but
work
in
week
Canada.
is it called work week?
I don't know.
It's just like opposite.
Is it actually? Are you joking?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay, I was actually like,
I've always heard
imagine.
I've always heard Canada has like the opposite of everything the US has. Like it's just flip flop.
Yeah, that's true. It does flip. But I mean, these days a lot of things kind of bleed into both countries.
No, they
Um,
definitely do. They definitely do.
like when it comes to like what you do at Arbitrum with hiring, so I'm sure a lot of people want to know who are you guys hiring for right now? Like what roles is Arbitrum looking to fill?
That's a great question. So primarily right now we're really focused on like our blockchain developer role, and our integration engineer role. Just kind of hit on those two specifically and like why they're kind of important. Like the blockchain developer, think of it like this, just from a structured point of view, like how these two positions kind of work together. So the blockchain developer is obviously working on like the what Arbitrum is a smart contract. So they're working on the smart contract, which is a portion, in this case, the bridge. So anything technically related from why our assets having trouble coming over, why like is there any delay of assets being put back on L1, like so anything from a security standpoint, anything from a deposit withdrawal standpoint, and even like how can we kind of expand like our product offering is kind of what that blockchain developer is doing. Like maybe doing some research on the side and like figuring out some new technical like initiatives we kind of like figure out and chase. But yeah, that individual is like 100% working at the local level, like they are in the weeds. Whereas like the integration engineer is that individual who like needs to essentially almost be like kind of like a smart contract auditor, right? So it is someone who's able to go in and read the code, be able to help a project that's looking to onboard onto Arbitrum. From a technical standpoint, right? Like we definitely want to have individuals like come in, understand the code, understand the project, understand the ecosystem, the different nuances that come with the different problems. But if it gets too complex, that's when they call in the blockchain developer, right? So those two positions are what are like what are my main focus currently. But outside of that, I also am helping with partnerships, primarily with the Web3 gaming role, and that's more focused on like an individual coming in and kind of taking charge of like what we kind of want to drive is like a triple A type quality studio gaming environment where like projects come and use Arbitrum to build on top of that. So that those three primarily is kind of where I'm focused at. There's also Nick Nera, who is my manager as well, and he leads the other engineering roles, primarily like the Golang role, the Rust engineer, the senior software engineer, and a couple of SRE roles. And then the rest are kind of split between us two as well. So yeah, that's my priority.
All right, we got a question already. Any non-developer jobs available, or are you in charge of that side at all?
Yeah, so on the non-technical side, like on the non-developer roles, the executive assistant, obviously, operations manager, HR generalist, and outside of those, I mean, in a essence, like the associate product manager is very like technically knowledge, like it's someone who needs to understand like a lot of the technical nuances that come with a layer two, obviously what kind of like driving like that go to market strategy in a sense, because like we obviously want to kind of create different products and kind of want to focus on like for instance like Nitro Nova. Are there problems with projects coming onto that? Like what else can we build? What projects in the ecosystem kind of collaborate together? But yeah, like in a sense, I would say those three or four roles are definitely non-technical, where you're not having to obviously be hands-on with the smart contract itself.
Yeah, I think one of the things I noticed when I first joined was just how many engineers and developers there were on the team, and I was just like, great, I can't wait to learn a lot of things I didn't know about the about scaling, about layer 2s, layer 1s, and everything in between. So
yeah, I can confidently say I'm the dumbest in the room, but like also being a sponge in that sense. I'm just worth of information to be correct.
yeah, no, 100%, and then empowering those who are the smartest in the room.
But yeah.
Here's a good. I like this question from Juan Lopez. Friends, what about junior or no tech jobs? Does people starting their career have space on big projects like Arbitrum Off-Chain Labs?
I would say apply, and the team will get back to you in about 24 to 48 hours. You know, anything like, you know, specifically like junior to internship level, right? Like you know, even fresh out of college. I think, you know, globally speaking, it's such a very different recruitment environment here in the U.S. compared to globally. And, you know, globally, you know, an individual might have, you know, the high school degree, maybe 2, 3 years of college, but also had a chance to, you know, actually co-found a really good project, right? So then you have that compared to someone, let's say here in the US, that graduated from high school, a couple years of college, did the same thing. You know, maybe the person in, you know, internationally is on a totally different, you know, playing field when it comes to career opportunity, career advancement, any type of networking opportunities, right? So here in the U.S., we are very, very fortunate to have like such good network pools and talent pools, like, you know, New York, Miami, Chicago, L.A., right? Like Seattle. I mean, even like right now, Austin is, and even Nashville too. Like we have so many random places throughout the US where there's a ton of talent, whereas globally that talent is also a bit more junior, like in the sense of like trying to kind of find like the right opportunity, because I feel like you're able to kind of take more risks in that case and kind of go out and try new projects and fail, where I feel like here it's you know, you go to high school, go to college, you know, just using Berkeley as an example, or even Stanford, you know, these like hot, Ivy League schools, you're like one almost guaranteed a job, right? Like you're guaranteed some sort of job in your field, like whatever that may look like. But the only other, like, you know, few schools I can kind of think of where that can happen is a school in India called the India Institute of Technology, IIT, and that is like comparable to like a Harvard, a Stanford, you know, those types of Ivy League schools here, but it is a far more competitive test, or like it's a far more rigorous system to get into IIT than, let's say, it is to get into like one of the Ivy League schools here. I think it's only like 0.01% of individuals actually make it into the Indian Institute of Technology, whereas maybe like 3 or 4% of the population, 5% of the population here in the U.S. does. So, you know, it is like really taking that time while you're in college and like forming these projects, networking yourself, making sure that, you know, every part of like your next step is kind of like paved in a way, right? Maybe not paved, but at least the road is dug up for you to like lay your bricks.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of times, depending on the role, like experience can play a huge role. I guess like for a role like mine, if I can, like as a community manager, just having years of experience in different, you know, Web2 and Web3 communities, and, you know, through startups and the contract work and moderations and it's, you know, dealing with all those different global communities for such a long time, they all start to feel kind of similar. Like for me, Web 2 and Web 3 online communities. When I say Web 2 online communities, I'm thinking of gaming for my background, and mainly MMORPGs. And when you got into Web 3, it was, the ethos felt very similar. All the people in Discord, Telegram, and Twitter and Reddit, you know, had the same level of enthusiasm and passion. I'll word it like that. And it was easy to segue through that. But then you add crypto and technology to it, and you need to throw a lot more education into that management, which is really important. So that's always something to think about.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point there, because your position specifically, right? Like, I not that someone could do this out of like their dorm room, right, or like out of their college career, but I think the elementary steps of like, going into like, finding a DAO, like starting off there. If I was interested in crypto and I was still in college, like, what is a DAO? What opportunities does this DAO have? How can I help this DAO? Or just as an example, right? Just or a different project, whatever. Feel free to kind of interchange those words, but like, how can I apply what I know now to help this project grow? And then how can I take this project, basically take myself professionally, and then leverage what I want to do, and then kind of grow throughout that, learning process. Because to me, universities like have always been in a way like a simulation environment where you can go in, you can change your major, you can mess up, fail a test. No one's going to kick you out of university unless you fail so many tests, right? Or
It's
just
expensive.
that like that as well. But speaking of this specific, like, type of environment, like those universities, like there's a ton of opportunity to obviously kind of create your own type of opportunity from these different projects. So yeah, like going out, finding a DAO, finding some projects that you're able to kind of attach yourself to and like, grow with them, is only going to help grow your career throughout college specifically, right? But let's say you didn't go to college. Now you're kind of out in the open and you can literally do whatever you want. So that's where, some people have asked me, like, and even candidates have had, asked me, "Hey, I have a great background. What role do you recommend me for?" And it's kind of like, I can recommend you for any role. Like I don't know what you want to do. I don't know where you kind of see yourself. I don't really know, like anything about you essentially, right? This is the first time we're having a conversation, so you know, questions like that. I will say it's not your red flag or anything. It's nothing like that. It's just literally like, maybe you need to ask yourself, like, what do I want to do? Where do I see myself? Like, how can I use what I currently know to get myself to the next level? Is kind of like some of those key things to kind of like, look out for yourself and like really kind of grow yourself professionally.
Yeah, and a lot of people, when they're transitioning, let's say if they are from Web 2 to Web 3, which sometimes people make like a direct conscious decision to do that, or like in my case, you're just involved in Web 3 for a while, a few years, and then you just, slowly just that becomes your reality. So for you, personally, for you, was it just like a jump, like from? I know you went into detail a bit about it, but was there like a snapping point where you're like, oh, I like the ethos in Web 3 more than the working culture in Web 2 per se?
Yeah, I would say it was after I worked at this company called Click. So I went from recruitment to becoming a sales to a sales or a business. Yeah, it was like a sales enterprise sales representative, to be specific. So because of what I knew in like the analytics side of things, I felt comfortable like, using my personality and my sales like charisma. I was like, let me truly try sales. Like, let me let me see if it's for me. And from December to May, I did nothing but like cold call, like try to create pitches, try to like, I don't know, put on this persona that just wasn't me. And I instantly realized that sales is not for me. Like, in terms of going out selling a product that I just don't believe in, right? It's so hard to do that. And I
Yeah,
knew for a fact that there was like people out there that were just different. And like, what I mean different, I mean like thought differently, took life differently. Like everything about them was just different. And I would say May of 2020, like end of April, beginning of May of 2021 was that snap. It was like literally a snap at me. I was like, I can't work in a traditional work environment anymore. It's not for me. When was
yeah.
the snap for you?
When was the snapping moment, or the? Is that what you said?
Yeah. What was like
Oh,
the point for you?
I mean, I've gone through quite a few, education-backed careers, I guess, in the sense, like I mean, like my whole life, I think from an early teenage years, I was doing online gaming community, management and engagement. And then, I'm at over 15 years of doing that. So that just was second nature. But going from jobs like, massage therapy to culinary school to just like volunteer work and anything, it's, it was kind of clear that I needed to end up somehow back in that online international like socializing world. And when I got into Web3, I think the clicking moment was when I started voluntarily moderating a couple Telegram groups of just some random projects that seemed like they needed people to be reined in a bit and maybe helped out. And I started to get like I guess like poached for other small communities, like, hey, can you set up our community, can you teach our mods how to like do that or whatever. And from that and just like setting up discords for people, and it kind of all just clicked in like a 6-month period slowly until I realized like I was just doing it full time. And I think, I mean, I had the, I guess, benefit, let's say, of COVID kind of transitioning me that way. It's not like I had a different job that I left to go into Web3. I was just kind of cocooning, as a lot of us were. So yeah, that was it for me. It was just really cool to see how you can bring like the same kind of thing in gaming, where you bring all these different people from parts of the world into communities that they can, share similar interests and views on specific things, like just the way the blockchain can change real world things and online world, and how they kind of blend, as things are kind of now in the 2022. It's starting to blend a lot between online and in real world.
Yeah, I think it's when you bring that up, like just in terms of like how naturally this conversation is flowing, because back in back in like yeah, back around like June, July of 2021 as well, I started just doing research of like, okay, what's the current job market? What job boards are out there? What is like happening from a career standpoint in this space? That is one driving this much interest, adoption, speculation, like literally anything. Like where is this coming from, right? Um, so I don't know. It just kind of paints that picture of like right now we're seeing like that change of like kind of just like career progression as a whole. I mean, there's students and like there's even recent college grads, the ones that graduated in 2020, 2021 as well. The majority of them have never been back to campus. Like they've never seen
Yeah,
their campus, and never interacted with their classmates at like their senior year. So that perspective of folks like is like, okay, well, I'm gonna go work my remote job now, and they're now they went from a remote schooling environment for the last 2-3 years to then a remote
yeah.
job.
That whole like workforce ethos has really shifted over the last, I don't know, maybe you could go as far back as 10 years slowly, but on my radar, it's been the last 5 years. So I'm not sure where you could start tracing that transition. Maybe like Web 2 really started that ball, but Web 3 took it to the next level, and then global situations obviously play a huge role,
Yeah. Yeah, I
which
would
is
say like
interesting.
2018, 19. That's when I started seeing like the big like push for remote. But companies were so hesitant to like bring folks on. They were like, "Oh, this guy's working remote. Like, we can't really keep an eye on them," and
It's
stuff
tough.
like that.
Company culture can be hard to kind of grow and take care of when everyone is behind screens. Yeah, I like here we do a lot of all of our meetings like with video typically, and that helps keep you kind of, there's another person on the other side that you're working with. This person, they might as well just be in the same room at times.
You are a real person, though. this is
Yeah, this is AI is not that good yet, so it's all
yeah.
good. I'm gonna take a question here by OX Faga. Hey, Ald, does your timeline for hiring look? How does your timeline for hiring look given all the layoffs at large tech companies? Will Arbitrum continue to hire through the holidays?
I would say based on all the layoffs, like that it's kind of like a tricky question to answer because like we're obviously not in that position currently right now. And I've seen a ton of like Web2 talent where the Web2 talent wants to come into space, right? But there's different like technical nuances like individuals need to kind of know, right? Like at the base of it, like if asked on an interview, what is Ethereum? And you can't answer what Ethereum is, but like hypothetically, you worked at like one of the companies that was laid off. You know, it kind of makes it look like you're one not prepared. In reality, you might be a very smart, talented individual, but you know that key part of like what this technology does in this space, and like it's kind of like okay, well, you don't know that it does draw a couple red flags, right? So
Yeah,
it you need to make sure that like one you're brushed up on all these skills, like and all those technical buzzwords everyone uses, right? But you need to like actually understand what those words mean. Like at the end of the day, like there is a level of studying that does go into this, right? The one book I highly recommend is for the foundation out there for good financial or foundational principle
this
here.
is not a sponsor. This is
Yes,
unofficial.
it's not sponsored out here, but no, I'm currently just reading this book because it's by one of our two, or actually two of our co-founders, Stephen Goldfeder and Ed Felton. And that book like really gives you a good like foundational nuance of like what is blockchain, how like what's a nonce, right? Like why is a nonce important? So yeah, it just kind of walks you through like those types of perspectives and those types of examples, right? To then give you some sort of foundation. Now, granted, that book is a bit outdated. I think it's
That's fair.
like 3 or 4 years old, but actually maybe
Some things hold true.
no, they definitely do. But yeah, I think I think it's a good foundation, right? And
Some of the definitions are somewhat immutable. Let's say. Eh?
exactly.
um, I mean, we got a few more questions here. They're good questions. Do you mind if we just keep going through them? All right, from Matt Weresham. Any advice for someone with non-tech finance biz dev background trying to get a biz dev job in Web3? I am spending time getting more technical knowledge, but curious for any advice. That kind of segues from what we were just saying.
Yeah, no, and I honestly myself, me personally, I hate hearing this answer. But it's just the most realistic answer like that I can give you, and it's just like you have to give it time and learn. Like there is nothing else that you can do besides give yourself time to learn, take that time, and just use it up until the next step. It is the most like bland advice I can say, but it's just in this case without like knowing like what your true background is, knowing what you've done in the past, how those things connect, right? I think from a technical understanding level, like creating a sales pitch and even like outreach in this space is totally different than traditional business development. So I would say I
Yeah,
would say time is going to be your best friend.
yeah. Time,
And
time in the space does a lot. It's like a
yeah,
lot of speed running in this space. Once you start working in it full time.
yeah, especially from a business development standpoint, like you know, I mean, just kind of be frank, like it is not like you're in the sales room cold calling 50, 60, 70, 100 people a day. You're not like messaging, emailing 60, 70 people a day. And it's just like it's a different form of outreach. Like it is just totally different. It's still networking in a sense, don't get me wrong, but like it is a different pace because you're having these totally different conversations with someone could be totally anonymous. You will never know who they actually are, and they have a phenomenal project. And you also have the polar opposite, right, where a project is like you know very very popular, and like the founders come from Polygon, come from Polkadot, come from Solana, right? There's just different projects that obviously have those individuals, but yeah, I would say that is a totally different process of business development compared to a traditional, like a SaaS role, right? Like that you're trying to sell SaaS, right? Hypothetically. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was saying to someone recently, like to be called even a beginner in Web3, if you go from knowing nothing, it almost like at the end of like 6 to 12 months almost being in it, then you're a beginner or something. Like you're not even like, it's so hard to, you can just read a bunch of stuff in the first few months, but you have to use all of those protocols and technology to really like to understand them. I think for most people, I'm sure there's exceptions, but like I like to think I'm a fast learner, and it still took me like over a year to really feel like I could explain something to someone as if they don't like they're 5 basically. So
Yeah,
it's still tough with some terms.
I remember when I first started talking about smart understanding the use of smart contracts. Like my first thought was like, oh, how do we take a paper contract and put it into a smart contract? Like, how do we take an agreement between myself and a lawyer and put that into a smart contract? And I'm like, it's not that easy. Like, it's not just taking words, put them into a programming language, and then put that into some bytecode. It is very much like, does this even make sense? Why do we need this? Um, is there actual practical use case? Like, because at the end of the day, like there is a cost associated with deploying a smart contract and obviously maintaining it. So initial fundamental um basically just like thoughts that I had were very much now like looking back on them. It's just funny to kind of hear like myself kind of say, okay, like how can I take a business contract or you take the business logic of this and put it into a smart contract? Yeah, it's possible, but like, what's the real world use case, for this? Um, but yeah, like there's something that it's like I've been working on it, but it's something I've done a ton of research on. Going back to like last year is basically how do you document and verify employment, like especially globally, right? How can I verify that you, Eli, went to school in Nova Scotia and like your school maybe was burned down, or maybe the school
Right.
that you went to overseas closed down, right? Or just something happened, right? Maybe your previous employer closed down. How do you verify any of that? How do you verify that on your resume you went to this school at this time, or those kind of timestamp things, I feel like is where blockchain could come in and say, okay, like we can verify this data, like he was, this individual was here at this time, like that's where I feel like it makes the most sense, right?
Yeah,
And
that's actually really interesting, like having that data on chain, like
yeah,
job history in a way.
A POAP instead of a
Yeah, like the POAP says they started here and ended here, and it's like signed by the company's like vault, basically. I mean,
yeah,
that
exactly.
sounds really like down the road, but I think Web3 companies will probably be the first to implement those kind of things if and when it happens.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's only a time, and there's actually, through my research, I found that the U.S. government is actually doing something with Microsoft called Mill Gears. Mill Gears is basically they take like an entry level recruit. I'm gonna be butchering these names, but like an entry level recruit right into the army, and they're now verifying their credentials, their background, basically almost creating like an entire career map for an individual to come in through at the U.S. military and say, okay, this individual started off here. He's not at this base. He's now doing this. His career progression wants him to get there. Like, is he taking the right steps to get there? Almost basically creating like kind of like almost a career map in a way. But like the fact that everything that this individual is doing is now being verified on the blockchain in some capacity
Right.
verifies that this is a real person at a real place doing something real. Like,
It's
yeah,
important, the due diligence process.
yeah, exactly.
All right, it's time to get into a little fun segment here. So I'm going to call this one hot food, cold food. So it's kind of self-explanatory. Bellman, I'm going to ask you, what is your favorite hot food right now?
Chicken cheesesteak. Chicken
Oh, that was
cheesesteak.
a quick answer. Chicken cheesesteak?
Chicken cheesesteak right now. Hot food. I just had one.
Oh, you literally. Oh, so that's fresh in your mind. That's a cop out answer to me.
Nah, it's not, because I've recently been catching myself getting like a chicken cheesesteak. But I will say, outside of that, commonality is either chicken cheesesteak, um, or a nice steak, honestly, or
Okay.
it's a good steak. I would say
Do you
I
have a
would say
cut? Do you have a cut you prefer of steak? Specific cut?
um probably a fillet, pies
Nice.
fillet, or a nice New York strip. Yeah, one of those.
I've been partial to the outside skirt over the last year and a bit. It's a really thin one that just takes a couple minutes, 3 minutes to cook.
Yeah, I'm not that bougie.
No, they're actually not that expensive. What about cold food? Favorite cold food right now?
Sushi 100%, or a nice why am I blanking on the name? Poke bowls. What? I don't know
Poke
why.
bowls?
I think he just had one
They're similar. They're sushi adjacent, so it's kind of like that Hawaii Japanese fusion thing
Yeah.
going on. You know, the joke here is that it's hot wallets and cold wallets. That's if that wasn't a clear connection. All right, cool. Good to know. I feel like I know you a lot better now, and I can judge you based off the foods that you enjoy right now.
Well, I have to ask, what about you?
For me, I guess right now I've been doing a lot of I guess like miso soups and like those kind of broths, like Japanese ramen type broths. Not the noodle package ones, the more like, homemade from
Bone
scratch with
broth.
like a dashi. Yeah.
The
Just
one,
try.
I think I saw you say it's in like oh my gosh, what did you say? You like something about bone broth and like how it's
Oh
jello.
yeah. Oh yeah. So like the bone broth, when it's in the fridge, it should kind of look like jello,
Mhm.
and then once you heat it up, it like turns to liquid. But if it doesn't look like jello in the fridge, then it's probably not. There's not as much like bone and marrow in it. So just some alpha on bone broth. You want your cold bone broth to be gelatinous. You don't eat it cold, but I guess you could with a spoon. But all right, and then cold food. It's a good one. That's a tough one. I don't know. I guess the salad. My partner's been making really yummy salads for me lately, and yeah, simple. Avocado, like radish, lettuce, some honey or maple syrup. It's kind of like creamy and sweet and acidic with the lemon, garlic. Yeah, simple.
Yeah, a little balsamic vinaigrette type of.
I don't mind that either.
Okay, okay, good to know.
All right, that was hot food, cold food. All right, let me jump into a question here. All right. Oh, that was an answer. Blockchain certificates and your opinion of them, not bandwagon education projects, but more so top notch via alchemy or something like that.
Yeah, and this goes, specifically for like what role, right? Back to the business development example from earlier. If you're like it if you're coming from Web 2 and you get a certification, like I guarantee you, depending on experience, obviously as well, like if you were at a company for 2-3 months, then are jumping ship, 2-3 months jumping ship, and then you also have a certification, that might help. But if someone's coming like with 2-3 years of experience and they have this certification or these different certifications, that it's going to help you tremendously, right? Like it's just, I would say I would say the ones via Alchemy are very good. I don't know if they've actually opened it up yet, but it's called like Alchemy University. But yeah, nonetheless, those are solid. I'd say so.
Yeah. Yeah, the only things I've really come across, some projects do like maybe even paid education where they want to, I guess, help you become a developer from Web2 to Web3, and then at the end you might get like an NFT certificate. Like that's usually like foundations that do stuff like that.
So speaking of that, there is actually on our Arbitrum portal, if you go on portal.arbitrum.one, you'll see all the projects in our ecosystem. And if you click DAO tools, there you'll see a project called D-Work. Now, D-Work is pretty cool. And mind you, this is just from like a recruitment perspective, like professional standpoint perspective. So it's not financial advice. So if you go on D-Work and you obviously connect your wallet, make a small profile, whatever, you're able to go throughout these different DAOs that are on there, and you can obviously join them externally or within the DApp. But for instance, actually 5 hours ago, Bankless is paying. It looks like they have like their own token, right? But like even the one below, there's City DAO that's looking for a DAO Labs UI UX designer, or for some sort of project, right? And that's $750. Like, and you click on that, and you can obviously submit a proposal. You click I'm interested. Like there's different projects out there or DAO specifically that are outsourcing their needs to like, for instance, like D-Work to basically create these like job like bounties, and they're all not technical. Like some have legal, some have operation, admin, these different categories, because for folks like myself who aren't hands-on technical, there's still a need in the business for me. So if you're looking to make some sort of income on the side, like however you want to kind of phrase that, or you're looking to kind of get actual exposure where your time is valued, more than just contribution, and you want to kind of take that step into a more concrete type of opportunity. Check out some of these bounties on D-Work. I think they're very beneficial. I think a lot of people should start to almost implement something like this within like their organization. And I think this is kind of changing how we look at jobs. Seriously, like this is so elementary to the point where going back to the Uber and Lyft example, like we were able to create a product that 1099 someone as a contractor here in the U.S., but it lets them earn a certain amount of income. It puts them on paper. Like it's great. So I feel like stuff like this on the blockchain side is kind of what we're coming around to, especially in DAO. So yeah, that's my 2 cents there.
No, that's great. Yeah, I think you introduced me to D-Work as well, and I know Treasure DAO has like a D-Work board on their site where you can do bounties and things like that. I think that's great. It's a great way for like, I guess like Web3 job economy, you could call it, exactly. Or like DIY economy.
Exactly. And going back to that example of us talking about like university here in the U.S. and like someone in like university within like somewhere globally, right? You and I have the same opportunity on D-Work to go do this, right? Like I don't have the same opportunity from the individual in like Germany or France or Italy to go do a job there, right? Obviously, just like how they don't have that same opportunity to come and do a job here. But the thing is, with the power of the internet and obviously like some sort of like decentralization, I feel like we're finally coming out to that. And even like Maltus, right? Maltus and like Utopia Labs, I think those two from like a business perspective are very unique. They offer basically like payroll services for DAOs and these like smaller projects, but small businesses in here in the US could greatly benefit from something like this. Like it's very seamless. So
yeah, Web3 has a really, I think, unique and relevant as well as interesting ecosystem that is slowly building out like to be a really strong like tech infrastructure for, I don't know how many years it's going to take, but you can see it, the roots, you can definitely see the roots planting, whether it's institutional or independent and grassroots stuff. It's all very relevant.
As one of the greats says, Stephen Goldfeder says, if they tell you that they know what's going to happen in 5 years, they're lying, which is true. It's especially in this space.
Yeah. I mean, you can make educated guesses on like maybe a year, or I guess when it comes to like cycles, you can make jabs at that. But yeah, whenever somebody tells me like something's going to happen for sure, I mean, if they're right, they're going to be pumped about it. But I'm always like, I don't know. Let's wait and see. But yeah, there's a question here from Shang Che. Question for Eli. I'm an arbiter from China. Is there a job for the community like in Discord? Part-time. I've been in Arbitrum Discord for almost 2 years. Whoa, congratulations. That's awesome. And I have a lot of free time daily. Hope to do more work for the Arbitrum community. I mean, first, that's great. We're happy to have you in the community. It's great when people have been around for so long supporting and, being a part of that growth. It's probably rewarding for you too to be so early in the community and seeing how it's grown. I would say just keep up what you're doing and keep your eyes open for, any opportunities that might arise. And I won't say much more than that. But yeah, good question. All right, I got another question for you, Bellman. What are your favorite projects on Arbitrum?
I would go back to using like D work, from like recruitment, like professional, like I said, perspective. I think that's actually very fascinating. But if we're talking about more like the DeFi side, GMX, obviously Treasure DAO, I think what they're building over there with the small brains and the small verse, like that is a flourishing ecosystem when it comes to gaming. And I'm very happy to see the commitment between like that community. It is very very like it's very like exciting. Like I don't know. I feel like every time I see that community, engaging in some sort of way together, it's almost like a party. Like it's almost like you feel that excitement and like energy about like what they're building.
Yeah, there's a lot of really organic like cross-pollination
Yeah.
between the treasure ecosystem and the projects that move through it or even outside of it. That was, like many people, probably the first thing I noticed when I joined was that ecosystem. But there's a lot out there once you also get into I guess the DeFi tools as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I would say DeFi wise, like GMX is definitely on my radar when it comes to. I think just ease of use is it's just seamless. It is one of the most seamless dApps that we have, and it just makes sense. And outside of that, I would say from a bridging perspective, I'd say obviously our Arbitrum bridge is great. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But like obviously if you want to, because we are optimistic roll and you don't want to wait the 7 days, hop protocol. That's always been great. Really really like just enjoy the ease of use there. But it's interesting because fiat on ramps aren't kind of talked a lot about, and there's one I've been using called Juno Bank, and you can basically just send money directly onto the Arbitrum, into the Arbitrum ecosystem, like straight into L2 basically. And yeah, it's I think those types of on ramps are definitely what we do need, and I feel like we're starting to kind of break into that side of things. But yeah, those kind of categories I would say are where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the first things I ever used was a fiat on ramp, aside from Coinbase, which is a centralized exchange. But a lot of fiat on ramps are kind of, in a way, I mean, some people might correct me on it, but they feel like a centralized exchange in a way.
Yeah.
But I think ShakePay was one of the first ones I used, which is a Canadian version of like MoonPay, I guess, or other fiat on ramps. But yeah, that's on ramps are definitely, and off ramps are something that'll be a big part of adoption and onboarding new users from no tech to Web2 to Web3 or what have you. So
Yeah, and I mean, especially after the whole debacle the past couple of weeks, how do you put like your trust into entities like that? Like how and why, right? Like, and I
mhm.
think having like some key players here, that they kind of provide some sort of comfortability, I guess, or some sort of like ease to these on ramps, right? Like Yeah, you mentioned Coinbase in this case. Like they've been around since what, like 24, like 15, or just like 16, I think it is, whatever.
I'm not sure, but a
Maybe
long time.
maybe even like before that, but nonetheless, like it's just like that comfortability that I feel like we're gonna have to kind of get around to eventually. And when that is, I don't know. And how that's gonna look, I have no idea. But I think we're gonna have maybe one day going from straight from our bank, like literally straight from our bank into L2 or even back onto Ethereum. I don't know. I don't know what's gonna look like.
Yeah.
I,
No,
I can say
me neither. I'm here for the ride. I'm sure many
yeah.
people are. And
I could not be
abs-
more strapped in.
yeah, I could not be more. I could not. Are there any other projects that you know of on Arbitrum that are hiring other than Arbitrum, since it's a pretty vast ecosystem?
I know Treasure's dowering, hiring as well. Let's see. Honestly, I'll be very transparent. I haven't looked at too many of the job boards in the past like week or two, specifically within our ecosystem. So if you are hiring, shoot us a tweet, shoot us something like
Yeah.
somewhere on Twitter or even like in this live stream right now, and just drop it because there some alpha for you guys. We're trying to work on like a ecosystem job board where different projects can kind of come in, and as a deploy Arbitrum, obviously list their positions on there. And yeah, like I definitely want to help out as much as possible. To be very frank and like realistic, I can't help everyone as much as I would love to. And it's just I want to point you in like the right direction, right? Like I definitely want to be used as a resource, as a guide, like, but it is impossible. Excuse me, I am getting over the flu here. Um,
You're doing great.
it is definitely like impossible to give personalized feedback to everyone and be as personal as possible. So yeah, if I can just serve as a resource and be very helpful to you, like that's all I'm trying to do. Obviously, get you into the step that makes sense for you, rather than like one the company or just like whatever you're trying kind of chase. Make sure what you're chasing is like what you want to do. So, and if I can make that happen, whether within this ecosystem or somewhere else, please ping me.
Yeah, nice. Is you saying your DMs are open?
My DMs are constantly open, but I get tweets that say that they don't. They're literally not open. I'm kind of like, how are they not open? I'm literally here.
Not sure. Let me see here.
Honestly, I'm gonna go back and check right now. But yeah, they
Yeah, make
should be
sure.
open.
All right. Well, mine are open as well, and our Discord is up. Has public chats. You can ask if anyone in Arbitrum ecosystem is hiring, or you can even go to the portal and you can pick a topic you think you have proficiency in. Like you can click on wallets in the portal, and then you can look at the different wallet projects on Arbitrum or that support Arbitrum and see if any of them are hiring. You can do it that way, just kind of, one by one manually. Let's create hot tub. Let's create a geographical type of list where the like-minded people are able to further interact with others. There you go. See, you can do that with, probably go and D-work and do something like that with a job board or organize it with the community. That's, I think, it might not go well. Yeah. There was another question here I wanted to throw at you, Bellman.
Throw it all.
It's from a community member here, McDuro, to have worked for projects as a contractor. In Off-Chain Labs case, if you're from outside the US, do you count as a contractor as well? Or how does that status work? That's a really interesting one that I learned about when I came here.
That's a great question because Off-Chain Labs at the end of the day is a business, right? Like then the product is Arbitrum. So, and this goes for anywhere else. Like actually, I can't really speak for other projects specifically about how they're structured, but typically, like let's say let's use Arbitrum as example. Off-Chain Labs is an entity. It's an organization here in the U.S. and we are able to hire internationally too. Like we obviously have folks in Europe, APAC, Latin America, and all throughout like North America. So For folks outside of the U.S., we use what is called Papaya or Deals, and that's called a preferred employee operator, so PEO. And they basically just handle all the like people are behind the scenes and setting up the bank account or setting up the checking information through direct deposit and stuff like that into your bank account. So yeah, it is very possible, especially if you're a contractor outside the U.S. There are ways to to kind of get it done.
Great. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, learning that there's these, third-party companies that help integrate international hiring depending on where a company is incorporated. And I think that's really important for not just remote work, but especially Web3 jobs if you're trying to do things by the book.
Yeah, exactly. And as we especially here in the US, I want to get because it is so different than what's going on globally and here. So it's from a hiring perspective, I just want to make sure that I keep those two kind of separate, but yet connected in like some sort of way.
All right, we're gonna do one more fun segment here, and then maybe finish off the episode if you want to drop any kind of alpha, if you have it. All right, so this segment, we'll say it's called When You Were Young. And basically, think of young can be like pretty, I mean, I don't know, are you in your 30s now, Bellman? Are you comfortable saying?
I'm 27 years old.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I just turned 30 in August. And all right, so I guess young can be, early 20s. It can be childhood, preteen. It can be teenager. So a time when you were young, just give us a short anecdote or whatever you got, anything. It can relate to Web3. It can relate to whatever. Just to, yeah, what do you got?
When I was young, in college, so I was between 2016 and 2017, I would work like odd end jobs, just literally like just trying to kind of figure out like how or what life is. Because quick background about me, like just to kind of paint this picture of why I'm telling the story. When I was like younger, my parents and I, we immigrated to the U.S. from a country called Bosnia. So coming
Shouts Bosnia.
So yeah, coming to the States, like we obviously don't have like a foundation. We don't have anything to kind of guide us, right? Besides just word of mouth. And so yeah, it was a bit hard on my parents, obviously, to like even bring up two, at that point 3 kids. Like how are we gonna get through college? Is college even like on the roadmap for us, right? So I ended up putting myself through college. So I had to support like myself and like I had to put food on the table and figure it out. So I would work these like very strange jobs. One summer I was working at a Sprint and at a Little Caesars. They're right next to each other. So like I'm working at one from like 8 to 4, and then from the other one from like 5 to like 9 or 10. Then that
Hustling.
it's the hustle. And yeah, so then that fall, my roommate at the time got us supervisor positions at a UPS. So it is the busy time. It's like October to like January. You're getting slammed with boxes. You're like lifting dog food packages, right? Like, and at that moment, I realized, how thankful, how humble, how just grateful I am, one, to be in this country, but also like to have an opportunity to work at this level, so young. But that was actually the first time I got exposure to recruitment, like from a corporate level. I ended up, not like working full time, but like basically like part timing, under their head of HR as like their internal recruiter there. So, being a part of like a club and fraternities on campus, like I was very social. I was actually my fraternity's recruiter as well. And I ended up recruiting 37 members, and like
you've been recruiting since day one.
Yeah, I've been recruiting for like Like
When you were a kid, did you go door to door and like try to sell
did.
cookies and popcorn?
I used to sell like our magazines, like the chocolates that we used to get from school. I used to door to door it, and
See, we've both been doing what we're doing now, but since we were young, we just didn't
yeah,
know it.
yeah. You're right, and I was really thinking about this today before the AMA because I don't know, yeah, professionally, maybe I haven't been doing it from a day to day job standpoint, but I do feel like workforce development, recruitment, like how do I get someone into a better position than they are now, put more food on their table for not only themselves but their family, right? Like I don't know, it just goes so much deeper, like when I think of it like that. But yeah, like as a kid, like back in college, I was recruiting everyone on my campus to come work at this UPS. So it would literally be like we're going to class and then we're all going to work. It was like 25 of us. So
Jeez,
yeah, we were
fucking
all just kind of
Ponzi.
and then at the end of the season, unfortunately, they were like, okay, we have to let everyone go. Season's over. So yeah, they would all go back to school and go back to kind of focusing on stuff. And I would still go to school, go back to UPS until like 10, 11 o'clock at night after school. So yeah, man, it was great to kind of get that experience up front. But the reasoning behind that story is because I was able to find my own fun, like professionally, right? Like I found a lot of enjoyment, like putting people in those better positions to make some extra money, like during the fall and the winter. But in the same breath, like I don't know. It just I kind of paved my own fun. Like I paved my own excitement to want to work with my friends, and we're going through the same thing. And you just want to go through stuff with people who are going through the same thing as you. I know it sounds very generic and bland, but
Sounds like Web3.
yeah, exactly. Like this space is very like entrepreneurial, as they say. Like not everyone's an entrepreneur, but entrepreneur is definitely something that's coming around. And it's like, how can I help your business, right? Like you ask yourself that question to deliver, right? Like if I went up to Ed or Steven or Harry at like a conference and I had a pitch like, hey, I want to work there. Like I definitely want to implement some sort of product there. These are my ideas. This is my passion, right? So yeah, I don't know. To me, if you come prepared with an answer like that, and you see like a co-founder, or you see anyone out there in the world that that can put you in a better spot, or obviously you're putting yourself in a better spot, but they can open up that door for you, and definitely do not be shy to not talk to people. Like go out, talk to the random person, like in line. Sometimes talk to a professional. Obviously, that's within your space. Like to me, like having mentors is very important, and I think having that guidance and this is also a very out of the park comparison, but if you're familiar with Mr. Beast, he kind of broke this down pretty well.
Yeah.
And back when he was studying like different YouTube videos, he would come together with his friends. Like I think it's like 5, 6, 7 of them, right? They would all sit on a call together for like 12, 14, 15 hours a day, and they would all learn from each other's mistakes, basically minimizing the time needed to actually succeed. So if you mess up on something, I'll know not to do that thing. So I'm still going to go on the road that we're on, but I'm going to do something else and then see if we mess up there, and you keep going, right? So
That's what I tried to do when I onboard people into blockchain.
yeah, you just want to like alleviate
Ethereum.
as much risk as possible, alleviate as much time as possible, all these mistakes. So yeah, man, I would say that's it's kind of everything.
All right, great. One last question I'm going to throw out from poor Bob Sarmi. Does the Web3 ecosystem have a shorter average lifespan for jobs? I.e., do employees come and go often, or is it more similar to regular tech where working for a project for 3 to 6 months and moving to something is unusual?
um, so it's kind of it's kind of like a nuanced question because The project itself, like for instance, like an Arbitrum, like it's made by like off-chain labs. Like in that case, there's different projects kind of going on there. Like, and that's where a project could last 6 months to a year, 3 months, whatever. But if you're talking more of like from the employment side, um, yeah, I mean, this is very much just like the world of like venture capital is the best way to kind of frame it. Like it's literally you're working for these smaller startups that are kind of they're taking a chance and you're kind of hopping on board with them to basically drive their mission, drive their values. But like, do you align with that, right? Like, do you align with working the long hours, working a little bit extra harder that you might be paid for, or maybe doing a little bit of extra that like it takes to actually get through the line. And even from like a compensation goal standpoint, like not everything can be incentivized by like a paycheck, right? Like you need to
Yeah.
be into it. Like you like not that your personality has to be all about this job. It just but you have to kind of be about it, right? Like so that lifespan really depends on the organization itself, right? Like what's their funding look like? Is it a reasonable project? Does a project have users? Like it goes back to like what are they doing and why are they doing it, right? And then do I align with that? So yeah, it is kind of a tricky question to answer because it's kind of two into one. Where
Yeah.
yeah,
And
like
it's very situational too. Like
it is
every
because
project's going to be different and depends
there's
on you as a person.
I mean the comparison that I've always used was literally VC. Like venture capital is no different when it comes to those startups being compared to the startups here in the space. The only thing different is what those startups are doing over there is more general and just like they're general. But here in this space, you're very obviously blockchain crypto focused. Like that's the niche, right? That's the focus. So yeah, I mean you're at the end of the day, you're taking a bet, you're taking a gamble on your own career, on what you want to do, on how you want to do it. Like if you come in at a 10, 11, 20 person startup, like you're going to have a different impact than if you're coming in with a startup that has 150 people, 200 people, 300 people, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very, very, very like the same in terms of how it works, but like it's also a bit different too. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And like, a good way to wrap this up is just like any job, career, or, you know, even if it's a hobby, any of that stuff you do is really just investing in yourself and in your own time. And that's, one of the most important things you can do. I think maybe it's, DYOR, but that's my take on it. I've always had
Yeah.
the most, I guess, success when I just invest in my what makes me passionate and happy and in that time. And when I say success, I don't mean like financially. I just mean my time feels used well.
Like to kind of wrap it up here too, but I just want to, just premise this point of anybody in this space can work. Like anyone outside of this space can work in the space. Like there
Hmm.
was someone that I met so 2021, last like April, March. This person, I had no idea who they were. I had literally an entirely complete different conversation with them a year and a half ago. Like it has nothing to do with blockchain, crypto, arbitral. It was literally nothing related. And I actually hit him up a couple weeks back just to kind of check up on him because I had to finish up some other business outside of this. But it was just like, hey, like, what are you up to? How you been? Blah blah blah. And he goes, "Hey, I see that you're working at Arbitrum. I use it every single day." And I was like, "Wait, what? Like, what? Why is this person using it?" Because obviously, like in a completely different field, I don't want to to even give any remote because I feel like it will kind of give it away. But yeah, he ended up using Arbitrum every single day. So I was like, you know what? Like I'm gonna meet up with him, and I met up with him for a quick lunch. And he started to kind of show me his small brains. He was taking his small or taking the magic and stuff. And I don't know. At that point, I was like, anybody in this world, like no matter what their career is, they could be involved in this space some sort of how. And like that, this individual is very successful, like very, just very, very smart when it came to breaking everything down. From how Arbitrum works, how L2s work, what the different projects that we have on, but also how it compares to different blockchains. Like why is it different than Polygon? Why is it different than Optimism? Right? Like it was just so fascinating to see this individual I met a year and a half ago. Haven't really spoken with. Actually, I haven't spoken with him in a year and a half prior to that lunch. And it was just so fascinating to hear that he was that involved in the ecosystem, right? So, yeah, and this guy, just to just kind of put it out there, is literally just like an average Joe, just like us. Like I don't know, it was just so surprising, right? But yeah, hopefully that kind of throws it all together there.
Oh no, that's great. That's just like a shout out to the ecosystem and the people who are helping us build this and get the word out. I posted a tweet in the Twitch chat. Basically, any topics you might want to see in future episodes of Ask An Arbinaut, just post a comment on that tweet, what you'd be interested in seeing in the future, and we'll see who we can bring on from the team. There's a lot of people that we could bring on, and yeah, I look forward to doing this again, maybe later in December. And thanks so much for joining, Bowman, even though you're getting over the flu. You did great.
Like honestly, right now, I just want to put out there, the past hour, however long we've been talking, like this has been the best.
We went long.
This has like been just the overall best feeling I've had in the past 3 days, and it's just I don't even know how I'm still talking. So
your medicine was just engagement, community engagement.
Shout out to my doc.
Shout out to the doc. All right, we'll see you next time, everyone. Arbinauts out.
Arbinauts out.